of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, look down upon us, guide us, help us through these struggling and turmoil times. Give us guidance and direction to help us find the way and the answers that we need. And for all those serving overseas that keep this country free and help the free and freedom stay in this country. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a seat. Do we have amendments to the agenda, Mr. Cully? No, we do not. Opening board comments, Mr. Black?
None at this time.
Mr. Taylor? No. Mr. Underwood?
I do have a comment, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, please.
I read a comment about you and your pack in the newspaper, and normally a pack is a group of animals, and I can assure you that I'm not an animal. So I just would like to say that there has to be some level of civility regardless of what we're doing, whether you agree or disagree. And I think that was just a little disrespectful, Mr. Chairman, and certainly I'm going to apologize on behalf of that person who wrote that.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Mr. Seeley?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Thomas?
I just this procedural, and I thought we did it, but I wasn't sure. I recall with respect to the Bowling Green Elementary School, we approved $3 million, and we've actually borrowed that money already. But did we ever formally approve the second $1.5 million? Or?
I don't think so. I don't recall.
We haven't done that? Okay. I'm just, well, searching for the right word, because I'm extremely disappointed that the county, all of us, are going to contribute to this new school. And there was an article in the Freelance Star from the principal of that school calling the school system socialism. And I'm frankly insulted. But to have the lead administrator for somewhere where, quite honestly, I've gotten a lot of heartburn over, but to have that lead administrator say that the school system is socialism, I'm insulted. And I imagine that will still pass. But I do intend to cast a protest vote in that instance. So that's why I wanted to make sure we did that. But again, I'm insulted that the lead administrator of a school that we are going to spend $10.5 million to build a new school would call the school system socialism. So I look forward to the chance to express my opinion on that particular article when it comes before the board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I have no opening board comments. The next item on the agenda is a recognition and presentation. Mr. Seeley, I believe Mr. Hurl was he representing you? Port Royal. Mr. Taylor, I think it would be appropriate for you to come and to make this presentation, if you would.
I would be happy to. Are there family members here? If you are, you are more than welcome to come up.
let's take one more. Mr. Salwright, Mr. Day, you served with Mr. Hurl for a number of years on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Why don't you come and take a picture with the family as well? They served with you, Dad.
Yes, I know. Thank you very much. Very great.
There we go. Thank you, sir.
Creativity.
Need a fan. One more.
Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate your work.
Gentlemen, we have one more resolution of appreciation that we're going to present tonight. Is not on the agenda, listed on the agenda. But I'm going to ask Mr. Alan Pardon if he would come forward. He's going to drag his feet.
Why is he down there anyway? Well, we'll go back again. It's been really nice knowing you, Steve. That's right.
This resolution that we're going to present, the resolution that we're going to present to Mr. Pardon this evening is a resolution of appreciation. A resolution of appreciation for Alan L. Pardon's efforts as interim county administrator. Whereas Mr. Alan L. Pardon has been serving the Board of Supervisors and the citizens of Caroline County since August 26, 1991. And whereas Mr. Pardon has been asked by the Board to serve as interim county administrator on 3 separate occasions. And whereas on the last occasion, Mr. Pardon served as interim county administrator for a period of 13 months, far exceeding the original expectations of the Board. And whereas Mr. Pardon enthusiastically and loyally accepted the duties of the county administrator, and whereas the staff and the citizens of the county of Caroline benefited from his knowledge and leadership. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Caroline County does hereby recognize and acknowledge Mr. Alan L. Pardon for an outstanding effort on behalf of the Board serving in the capacity of interim county administrator from March 12, 2011 to May 1, 2012. Adopted this 22nd day of May, 2012. Clerk of the Board, Charles M. Cully, and Chairman Wayne Akers. Mr. Pardon, we've said this many times before, and it really, each board member truly, truly means it. We appreciate what you did. You served during difficult times, and you did a tremendous job for the board as well as the citizens of Caroline County. And we truly, truly appreciate your efforts and what you did for us. And this is just a small token of our appreciation of what you've done.
I don't like cold. I like hot. I like hot.
Next item on the agenda is the presentations and reports, and the VDOT report this evening is the next item.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hopefully you all have a copy of the latest report. Just to hit some highlights, I know one of the issues was the noise study out there around the Belmont subdivision from the 207 improvements that we had done. We did take additional noise levels, and they did come in below the 66 decibels that was in the first two studies. They came in around between 54 and 60 decibels, and they were all below the 66 limit. So we are complete with that request, unless you have any questions on that. Some of the construction projects that you've seen around Route 301, the Rappahannock River Bridge, we have that project going on. It started in March, and it'll be complete in July of 2013. We have the Route 207 bridge replacement right out here that you've seen. That will be complete May of 2013. Both of those projects are doing very well. In preliminary engineering, we are continuing to work on Route 639 Ladysmith Road. We have the notice to proceed for right-of-way has been issued. That was in March. Route 644 bridge replacement over Maricosset Creek. As a reminder, that road will be closed during construction, and it is still scheduled for advertisement in July of this year. Route 600 bridge replacement over Boot Swamp. We also have issued the notice to proceed for right-of-way in March, and the advertisement is scheduled for November. And Route 633 bridge replacement over the South River. The design is underway. The right-of-way phase is scheduled to begin this August. And tonight we have our public hearing on the secondary six-year plan, a little bit later. So they're the highlights, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or take any requests that you may have.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, ma'am. I just got a quick question for you. Earlier in the year, I guess January, February, I had called VDOT and Ladysmith, and they did clean up on 639. Is that possible to get that on a recurring schedule? They worked with the prisoners to pick up the trash along 639 from basically Route 1 past Lake Landor. Is that possible to get that on a recurring schedule? Or?
Yes, we can get the inmates in. We'll work with them to see if we can get them in on a routine schedule. Do you have a recommendation for the routine schedule you'd like?
I mean, it would be nice like every 3 months or so, if that's possible.
Okay.
Because it's a way for a lot of the people in the Charlesburg to the dump, and sometimes in Lake Landor, and a lot of stuff flies off.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes, I do. I have a request, and I'm not sure if there will be time to do this, but I learned of it. Up on Route 609, there is a portion of the highway that's been adopted by Macedonia Church. And what they wanted to do is to pick up trash on Saturday morning, but the grass is extremely tall. And I was wondering if it would be possible to get it cut between now and then so that the cleaning would be more effective. Again, I know it's a short notice, and I don't know what kind of schedule they have, but if something could be worked out.
All I can do is ask the superintendent, see what the schedule is this week, to see if he can fit that in.
Okay.
So we can let you know.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Mr. Underwood?
Thank you, Mr. Akers. Yes, ma'am. On Route 652, coming toward past Dry Bridge Road, and you take the curve and down to the bottom of the hills, there's a bus stop where we pick up maybe 5 or 6 children. That's a pretty dangerous curve there. We need some type of signage. Most of the morning I'm behind the bus, but people are definitely coming a little too fast, and when you make that curve, it's a pretty sudden stop because there's several cars that back up right there, right in the bottom of that hill on 652 Dry Bridge Road.
Do you know if it has a school bus stop ahead sign out
It
there?
does not.
Okay.
And I think that it needs to be there.
Okay. Typically how those are handled is if somebody from the school division or transportation people, if they tell us where the bus stop is, what 911 address, we need that in order to go out and do the study. So if
Okay.
you can get me the 911 address or have them contact us, we'll be happy to go out and see if school bus stop ahead signs are appropriate, and if not, if any other warning signs are
I'll speak
appropriate.
to the Director of Transportation. Thank
Okay.
you.
That all, Mr. Underwood?
Yes, thank
Mr.
you.
Seeley? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to ask again about the Sparta Road Bridge across from the fire station. We talked about it, I don't know, 4 years ago, whether it had been scheduled for replacement. And I don't know if it's made the federal bridge list or not. Does anybody know if that's on the list to be replaced or not?
No, it is not on the list to be replaced. I did talk to the bridge engineer, and she tells me that it's nowhere near being replaced compared to the other bridges within the district.
Okay. Beasley Lane. We talked about Beasley Lane probably 3 months ago. And as you come down Beasley, it's a dead-end road coming off of, it's right across the street from here. As you turn off of 301 and head, I guess that's basically north, there's a long straightaway. Most of those first couple of houses have kids. And they were looking to have the speed limit reduced. And on top of that, the second house on the left, as you come out of that driveway, there are trees in the right-of-way that inhibit you seeing down the road. Now, I read in the report they'd done a traffic study, and I don't know what a traffic study meant with what they did there, and I guess that's my first question. What exactly did that entail, or what does that mean that they did a traffic study?
They would have looked at the volumes on the road as well as the speed that the cars are traveling.
For an hour, for 2 hours, because there was nothing ever put on the road, which is what I was hoping they would do.
You didn't see any tubes on the
They
road?
never did the double tubes on the road, which is, I think, would answer a lot of the questions both ways, whether people are really going that fast and how much more the traffic has picked up.
Okay, I'll take a look at the study and let you know how we did everything, and if we didn't put tubes down, I'll get them to do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Parker, it's good to see you again. And thank you for your efforts again on the speed study behind Belmont. So we are actually at, you say 56, and 66 is the threshold?
66 is the threshold, and all the readings were between 54 and 60.
54 and 60. Okay. Could I ask, like, what time did you take those readings? Are they?
They did it for a 24-hour period on April the 5th through April the 6th.
Okay, just.
So it was a 24-hour period they took the noise levels.
You wouldn't by any chance know what day of the week that was, would you?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay. You said it was April?
April 5th is when they started.
Okay. April 5th was a Thursday, and the 6th is Friday, so are those, I don't think those are the big truck nights. Are those necessarily the highest traffic volume times? I mean, we didn't have counters out there to see anything. You just had a noise meter?
Correct. We just did the noise meter.
Okay. I'd like to work with you a little bit more on that, because I know we have a large volume of trucks that are through there in the early part of the week, just because that's, they're going other places to be there later. Is that possible? If you and I could just work together one more time. I know you said you did it, you did your job, and that's it, but some of us can't let things go, so I'm one of those people, and I'd like to pursue that a little bit more if you'll just allow me to discuss it with you at a later time.
We can discuss it at a later time, yes, sir.
Okay. I know discuss it at a later time meant you're not going to do anything else, but we'll work on that.
I'm not saying that.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I have is I was requested by several residents that live on 639 Ladysmith Road from 207, and they said 5 miles, but 5 miles takes them a little past St. John Church, so we might as well look at the whole 639. There are a large number of children there now, as opposed to before, and the speed limit is 55, and 55 means you'll drive 60 or 65, and they're very concerned about the safety of children and some older folks that are trying to pull out. So is it possible we could look at a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit?
We can do a speed study. That will tell us what the speed limit should be, yes.
Okay. It'll tell you what it should be or what people are doing?
It will tell you both. They will tell us from the speed study what the people are traveling, And then from there, as well as looking at how many entrances, how close the houses are to the road and curves and all kinds of things, they look at all that, and then they will determine what speed the road should be posted at.
Okay, because I don't think we've ever done one on 639, to my
Okay.
knowledge, so I would appreciate that,
We will do that.
and I will be in touch later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming before the board tonight, and,
Okay, I'll see you in a little bit for the public hearing.
all right, thank you.
Oh, you're not leaving? Yeah.
Next item is appointments, Board of Directors for the Rappahannock Area Community Services Board. Mr. Collins has indicated that he is our representative right now on the board. He's indicated that he would like to be, or he would be willing to be reappointed.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Collins has, as you said, been our representative for quite some time, and I'll happily motion that he would continue in that position.
I'll second. He's very passionate about that and a great representative.
Motion made by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Seeley, that Mr. Al Collins be reappointed to the board of the Rappahannock Area Community Services Board. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay, and the motion is carried. Consent agenda, is there an item on the consent agenda that anyone wishes to pull?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item F just for discussion, just for some of the verbiage that's actually in it.
All right. Are there other items board members would like to pull? If not, is there a motion to approve A, B, C, D, E?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Taylor, that we approve A through E. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Mr. Seeley, question on F.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I guess I need to talk to Mr. Schiebel. Is he?
He's here. I'm sorry.
Or Mr. Cully?
Yeah, Mr. Cully.
I guess I'm spoiled in that for so long it's been Mr. Schiebel. On the letter, I guess it is from Mr. Cully to Mr. Schiebel, the first two paragraphs discuss the, I guess, evolution of trying to figure out how to get the water line across the tracks.
Yes, sir.
And do we have in writing from VDOT the bridge design that they sent us that we engineered to, and then they said that wasn't the right bridge?
I'm sure our engineers have that information. They're the ones who coordinated back and forth those efforts.
Because we're paying to have that design done. Is that not true?
It was, because of the redesign, there was not a change in the task for them to do that. It was all-inclusive. So they did have to go back and redesign it, but it was included in the original sum.
So we didn't do it once, though, but we did it twice because the second one, they said it cantilevered the tracks, and they actually put stanchions on both sides. And then they said no again.
That's correct.
Can we get some documentation for this?
Yes, sir.
It just seems like the more we go to VDOT, and I wish they'd stayed, the more difficult it gets. And I want a case in point of a recent, we go to VDOT, we ask them something, they give us something, we design something, send it to them, and then they say, that's not the bridge that we thought it was.
Right.
And then the second design was the bridge we thought it was, but we don't like the design. So I'd like to have that sort of, the written portion of that back and forth.
I can get it for you.
That would be fabulous.
That's why we never let it go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'll make a motion to approve consent item F.
Is there a second? Second. Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Thomas, that item F be approved as presented. Discussion on the motion with the requirements that Mr. Seeley has asked for. Documentation. Further discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay, and the motion is carried. As a while before public comments begin at 7:30, if the board has no issues, I'd like to maybe move over to unfinished business. I believe there are two items on the agenda, under 8 and 9, that we've held a public hearing for. It is a matter of board deciding whether they want to, as to how they want to handle these items. The first one is the proposed ordinance to appeal and replace Chapter 103 taxation, Article 15, delinquent personal property taxes of the Caroline County Code to provide for the imposition of administrative and attorney's fees on delinquent real estate and personal property tax bills and other charges as permitted by state law. Has the board wish to dispose of this item?
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Please.
This again is an ordinance change that comes to us at the request of the treasurer, which would basically put the county's fees in line with what's permitted by the state. So if there's, we're basically lining up with what the state does. So in that case, I would make a motion that we approve agenda item number 8.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Black, that we approve the proposed ordinance to repeal and replace Chapter 103. Discussion on the motion. All in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The next item is an ordinance to amend Chapter 34, checks fraudulent, Section 34-1 fee of the Caroline County Code to increase the amount charged for the passing of any check for payment of taxes or other sums due to the county and which is subsequently returned. Return check fee is what it amounts to.
Mr. Chairman, if I may again?
Please.
Again, once again, this was brought to us by the treasurer. Basically puts our fees in line with the state for return checks. We allow to charge what the state says we can. I'd make a motion to approve agenda item number 9.
Is there a second? Motion made by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Underwood, that we approve an ordinance to amend Chapter 34. Discussion of the motion. All in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. And the motion is carried. Discussion of VRS contribution rate options for localities. If we can go to that item, number 10. Mr. Cully?
First thing I would like to point out is we did inadvertently include some pages in this from the packet from May 8th. And so it's really the first two. And I did change my recommendation from May 8th to today, which would be to do what the schools have proposed of 5 and 6 to be consistent. I think on the employee share going 1 and 1 or 1 and 1.5, and then anybody that were to come into our system, not necessarily a new created position, but a replacement employee, whether it be in the sheriff's office or fire rescue or wherever, would then come in if they weren't vested at 5, and it would just be moving forward more of an issue in tracking, and then of course then salaries become an issue with that as well, because they would be immediately at a disadvantage, 4% to the rest of the employees, and then 3 the next year if you continued on the 1 and 1 path. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why the schools looked at doing the 5, because it puts them at a disadvantage with other school systems if they go 1 and 1.
Questions of Mr. Cully? Discussion on the issue.
What was the total savings based on doing the 5 and 6?
Well, doing the 5
Versus 1 and 1
right.
for 5 years.
If you did the 5-year, the cost is about $84,000. That's
Right.
just 5 and 5.
Right.
If you do the 1 and 1, it works out to about $100,000. So you save about $16,000 just dealing with it in the 5%. Obviously, if you put another 1% on to cover the cost of FICA for the employees, there is a cost involved, not necessarily what I would call a saving.
Right. So it's really 5 and 6. Okay.
That's my recommendation.
Well, absolutely. Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Thomas?
Yes, sir. Mr. Cully, just to make sure, because I think we've gone through this was a question I had for the school board specifically, and at that time the county recommended the 1 and 1, but now recommending 5. The real issue is that the 5% VRS has to be paid, period, whether by the county, as you're proposing, or whether by the employee. So the county or school system could save money on the 1 and 1 option, but that would mean that the employee was actually paying whatever the difference was, right?
No, I would explain that the other way.
Okay.
We have a VRS rate. The schools have a rate, and we have a rate. We have to pay that total rate. So what the General Assembly did was say that they want to phase the employees in. You can either have the employee pay all 5%, or you can do 1% a year and phase those employees in. So if you do the 1, the county's still paying the 4%. So you give,
Okay.
the employee pays 1 and gets a 1% raise by state law, but the county still has to make the other 4% up, so the total rate into VRS is covered. So there's no savings. The only savings we're showing is savings in payroll taxes and all the various things that go along with
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But there's no VRS savings.
No.
Either the employee pays it and the county pays the employee to pay it, or the county keeps paying 4%. The most we can pay this year, because we've got to at least go to 1% this July 1, which has really got to happen in June. So we really do need to make this decision, because it's got to come into payroll, in June payroll for July to be in effect.
Okay, I think maybe I misstated that. The 4% is going to be paid regardless whether it's by the employee if we decide to just do 1, or the county if we decide to pick it up. So oddly enough, I'm not looking at a saving in this particular thing, but I'm looking at the impact to employees, whether county, schools, whatever, because we're going to talk about schools later. So the impact to them is 0 at the 6 and 5 option.
That is correct.
Aside from what we may think of as a FICA additional fee, and that's just based on the way Social Security works. Because you get more money, they're going to take more money. We're planning on the extra 1% to cover that.
That is correct.
Okay, so there's no net impact to any employee.
I wouldn't say any. It depends on their salary as well. I can only give you this for Middlesex. We were recommending 5% and a 3% increase. At my salary of $100,000 in Middlesex County, I took home less money. So even a 3% didn't cover my increase, because it must have kicked me into another tax bracket at that time. Out of all the employees that work for the county, I was the only one. Most everybody else was covered by that. But here, it's my understanding from finance that a majority would be underneath of that. The 1% should cover it.
Yeah, and FICA is a standard number.
Right.
I mean, that number doesn't change until you make
It's some
$120,000
change. It's
or
some
something
change.
like that. Okay. I just want to make sure that, so if we do this, there's no impact to employees. They basically don't really get a raise,
There's no
but they
raise.
don't lose
They don't go behind.
the money that the state would have had them lose. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions of Mr. Cully?
I don't have a question. I guess this is more an observation. The employee does benefit, though, because we are actually paying that. If we did not pay that 4%, they would have to pay it. Is that right?
No, the way the state law was written, you have to give a salary adjustment to cover either the 1% or the 5%.
Okay.
You don't have to give an extra to cover their increase in FICA. But you do have to, it's still county dollars. You're covering that rate, whether 1% and 4% or all 5%, and it's just passing through the employee. So that,
I see.
I don't want to belabor it, but
So we're not asking them to take a pay cut, basically.
no, sir.
That's the bottom line.
That is the bottom line.
Now, Mr. Cully, how about the issue number 1?
On that, my recommendation is still the same, that we fully fund the rate and not buy down the rate, because I'm really fearful of FY15 when the new actuary comes out, and we don't know what that'll do, but we're pretty sure they're going to factor in that we underfunded for 2 years, and our rate will jump even higher.
Do we have any evidence or data that would tell us sort of where we may have to go after we get to we're going to be at what, 11?
11.56.
11.56. Do we have any idea? Has anybody heard any numbers of where we should be retirement-wise, or what we could be looking at in 2015?
Counties have historically pretty close to funded BRS. It's the state employees and school employees that the rates have been low and they've underfunded. It's been all of the reading that I've done. So I expect our rate to hopefully remain somewhat in that range, but it's certainly no guarantee. But I would think that if you buy the rate down, you're going to make it up in 15. I mean, I can't guarantee that, but not.
Right.
Any other questions for the board? Has anyone been able to determine what the General Assembly, what they were trying to accomplish when they went to this new format of requiring the employees to pay for the VRS rather than the county, although county paid for it in the past.
It started several years ago. When I went in the system back in the 80s, we paid our 5%.
I did as well.
And the General Assembly changed that in the late 80s to allow local governments to pick that up. Most counties did it in form of, instead of a raise for a year, they picked that 5% up. And you obviously saved some money because you weren't paying, your salary didn't go up and you weren't paying that FICA on that. I think obviously in the 80s things were different in the economy. There were a lot of places that had retirement plans that were similar to VRS. Those have, over the years, are not as prevalent, and so I think the General Assembly felt that there needed to be some buy-in into the employees' retirement, whether it's state, local, or schools. So I think that was the thinking on the General Assembly's part. It was a lot of discussion over several years of the General Assembly to do it. And they actually created two separate classes of employees 2 years ago, I think. Right. And then any new hires were also having to come in and pay. So they had created different classes of employees, and so I think they decided this year to start to clean that up to where everybody would be at 5%.
Well, my thoughts are is the fact that we can probably look for some reductions in state funding starting next year because
Want to see my
they
shot
now,
face?
yeah, but because they, I think, they're using this as a game to play, whereas localities cannot say that they're paying for VRS after this year. And so I can just imagine a reduction in state funding.
Well, there's still some local VRS that part of the rate. At the
Well,
11.66,
sure, but it's not
you
the
know,
5%. I mean,
yeah,
it's
but
not-
yeah, we're not paying that part of it.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, is there a motion, and keep in mind that there are two issues with this particular motion. One is the potential delay of VRS employer rate increase. They've increased to us this year. Mr. Cully is recommending that we go ahead and pay the increase this year rather than phasing it in. And the second issue has to do with the mandatory 5% that employees now have to pay, and we have to give or a salary increase plus a 1% increase to cover other tax increases on employees. So it's two issues that we're voting on.
And neither one of those, well, the first one is factored into the budget already, right? The first one's factored in. The second one, paying the VRS for the employees, is not factored into the budget. So the first one, which is estimated at $272,000, is in the budget.
That is correct.
The next one you're saying is another $200,000 that's not in the budget.
85.
85, I'm sorry, okay. That was the next page, I'm sorry. Okay. So we have to come up with 85,000 somewhere along the line, but the other 200 is in there. Okay.
And remember, that is monthly. I mean, so it's not
85 at one time.
85 at one time. So from a cash flow perspective, by it being on payroll, it is monthly over the 12 months.
Does that cover the 6%, or is that 5 and 5? Or 6 and 5?
That was a
rather?
5 and 5.
How much
The
is the
6%, you worked that number for me, but I don't.
So 200 wasn't far off from the beginning one.
From the beginning number.
So we're talking about a total of 175 for the 5 and the 6.
That's
So it's not 175 plus 85, it's all
No,
175
total.
together. Okay.
That's not in the budget.
Yeah, that's
175
extra.
is not in the budget.
Mr. Chairman,
85 of it is.
Now, I thought she said
No,
that
she
none
said
of it
no.
was.
She said none of it was.
None of it. The 1%'s in there. Yeah, but, well, the rate and the rate's in there, so that's.
Issue number one is in there.
Well, not even that. The rate is in there because if the total VRS rate's in the budget.
That's
So whether
correct.
the employee's paying it or not, the only additional cost is the 1% increase in salary. The whole rate is in the budget. Y'all, the whole VRS rate's in the budget. So the only additional piece would be an increase of 1% on payroll.
So you're saying a 1% increase for the county employees equal to $175,000?
Doing the 5 and 6, which would be the 1% increase over the 5, creates an additional cost to the county of $175,000 for its share of the FICA on the 6% and the increased cost of the group life insurance, which is also salary-based.
Group life insurance rather than, okay.
That's a low, that's a low part of the number.
But $75,000, regardless of how we cut it. Mr. Okay.
Yeah, we apparently are confused or perturbed, one or the other. The entire VRS is in the budget, right?
When the budget was proposed for the county, it was proposed at a VRS rate of 16.56%, which includes the 5% employee share. Backing out, making...
How much money is that? See, because we're looking at dollar numbers in our packet, and it says $84,000 is the 5 and 5 option.
That's correct.
That number is in the budget.
That number is in the amendments, the scenarios we've given you since the proposed budget.
Okay, okay. Now we're not confused or perturbed. What happened was the original budget did not have that number in it.
That's correct.
The subsequent documentation that's not necessarily in our budget book has that information in it.
That's correct.
Have we adjusted the salaries for this from the adjustment of the 1% and 2% raises that we did in June to reflect this number then?
Yes, sir. When when we did the original proposed budget, the restored salaries are in the 2013 budget, so the 16.56% is based on the restored salaries.
Okay. Yeah. That's-
How much are we
How much
really
are we really short?
$175,000.
175 if you do the 5 and 6%, yes.
Well, how come this other page says 1% is 19,000?
1 and 1 is
It's a single 1 and 1 option.
right. That means the county is paying 4%, the employee is paying 1%, you're giving a 1% raise, and because you're only going up 1%, the additional costs that the county would have, such as a FICA and the group life, is a lot less. But the amount that's coming off of that 16.56 is only 1%, which is a lot less.
That's where we can't extrapolate the numbers because we
There is no way to take the 18 or